The Tampa Bay Rowdies joined the North American Soccer League in 1975. Later that year, the Rowdies won the NASL Championship. The Tampa Bay area responded by supporting the team in large numbers. The success continued through the 70s as Rodney Marsh arrived on the scene and led the Rowdies to conference championships in 1978 and 79. This week, Marsh and the Rowdies are preparing for their annual 4th of July game. However, the real question from the fannies is, will the Rowdies ever return to their old form? Tonight, Rodney Marsh will answer that question.
Sports Exchange, Pinellas County's own live call-in sports program, with your host, Michael Hanlon.
Hello again, everyone. I'm Michael Hanlon, and welcome back to this edition of the Sports Exchange. My guest tonight, Rodney Marsh of the Tampa Bay Rowdies, and the man who captained the England team to a 1966 World Cup victory, Bobby Moore. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me.
Pleasure.
Rodney, first of all, the 4th of July just around the corner, and, well, for all of us here in the Tampa Bay area, that means fireworks at Tampa Stadium. And will it happen again this year?
Well, it's a big game for us, Mike. We're only playing one game this year. It's an exhibition game. We're playing against the US World Cup team. And for us, it's a very, very big game. We're expecting a big crowd, and so far, ticket sales are very high, and we're expecting somewhere between 30, 35, 40,000 people.
And since it is such a big game, you've really gone out of your way and brought this man here to the United States to become involved in the game. And Bobby Moore, it must be a great pleasure for you to come here and play.
Yeah, very much so. I'm looking forward to the game a great deal. You know, I don't play that much competitive football at the present time, more involved in the managerial and coaching side of it, but you know, I have had spells in the North American Soccer League in the past, and I think Tampa has always been a special place in North American Soccer League history, because I think it's been one of the best franchises during the period that the league has been running, and I just hope that the game's going to be highly successful, and it's going to give the game a chance over here in North America again. Great.
You had a training session now with the players just before you came over here today. Can you tell us about some of the players that you saw out there who we might be looking to see that have gone by in the past? Someone that might have caught your eye who looked to be in great shape?
Well, I think probably the best people for me to speak about is the lads that have come in from England. You know, Rodney's more au fait with the local lads that are playing, but at the moment we've got Ozzy Ardiles here, who's an Argentinian international that played in the Argentinian team that won the World Cup, and he has now been playing in English league football for about 5 or 6 seasons with Tottenham Hotspurs, and they're one of the best teams in the first division. They've finished second in the championship this year, and is a tremendously talented player. He's a great little passer. He's got great control and very quick feet, and I think you know, the people will respond to him because I think he's an excited player. He's a person that is very, very active, gets very much involved, and I think the crowd will warm to him.
And also his midfield partner will be joining him.
Yeah, Glenn Hoddle's due in about the next 48 hours. He, unfortunately, was due in earlier today, but he has got a business commitment in London, which is keeping him delayed a brief period, but he's going to be in time for the game. And, you know, Glenn is just one of the most talented players in England. He's got a great footballing brain. He's a marvellous passer of the ball. He's got great control over the ball, and I think, again, you know, people will warm to him when they see the sort of things that he can do with the ball, because he's a total master of ball control, and he's very, very deceptive with his passing. Passing's tremendous with both feet, outside of the foot, inside of the foot, short balls, long balls, and as I say, I think he will excite a few people and draw a few breaths.
He certainly did in the recent game against the United States. But Rodney, it must have been quite an effort to get all these players together for this game.
Well, what we tried to do is we tried to bring the best possible players that I knew that will be available to play in this game, and fortunately we were able to get Bobby and Ozzy and Glenn to complement the rest of the All-Star Rowdies, and on their own. You know, they're great players in themselves. You know, Stephen Roy Wegley, Mike Connell, Winston DuBose, and all those guys, Wes McLeod. So we have a very, very good team on the field on July 4th, and I think the fans are going to be in for a real treat.
The fans are wondering, Rodney, why only one game this year? Can you clear the air about that? Will there be a Rowdies? Will there be an outdoor season? Set the record straight.
Yeah, it's a very, very good question. And it's nice to have the opportunity to put everything in the correct perspective, really for the first time. And that is that we withdrew from the North American Soccer League in January of this year. And we did so for several reasons. The first reason is, at that time, there were only 2 active teams. And you cannot play a league with 2, it's very difficult to play a league with 2 teams. They were hoping to get more, and were using the Rowdies as a catalyst to go forward. And we said, there's no point in retaining players. The payroll, the budget was enormous, in the hope that it would all work out. It's come to pass, of course, that the Cosmos have folded and Toronto have gone, and the Rowdies are really the only team left in professional outdoor soccer at this time with any kind of a plan at all. The second point was there was no real leadership per se for outdoor soccer. Howard Samuels had died, as you probably know, back in October, November last year, and left a tremendous void of leadership, and there was no direction. And with no direction, we felt that to keep running our franchise with our budget, which was running about $190,000 a month, didn't make an awful lot of sense. And for that reason, we said we're going to take a year off, we're going to step back and look at it, we're going to reevaluate, restructure, and come back strong. And quite frankly, that's happening. The July 4th game, which we talked about back last year, has come to fruition. It's going to be a great night. We're using the July 4th as a springboard for the indoor, and hopefully we can use the indoor for a springboard for next outdoor. And I think that that's what professional teams in the US right now are having to do, and that's take it one step at a time.
Okay, 2 specific questions for you, Rodney, on that issue. First of all, you mentioned the outdoor, but before we get to that question, the indoor, what league will that be involved in, and where will the Rowdies be playing?
Well, let me answer your second point first. We will be playing in Bayfront Centre. We have 16 dates. The first date we have is November 2nd, and we're going forward. The thing about it is it's very difficult to go forward if you have no partners, and we're in the process right now of evaluating different groups of people that want to play indoor soccer. We've already spoken to about 12 different groups of people, and again, some of them we don't particularly feel comfortable with, and I think that in our 1-year hiatus, we have now the time and opportunity not to rush into anything, and indeed take our time, evaluate, and make the correct decision for all the right reasons, not just by getting spring fever and wanting to play again, which has happened so often with the North American Soccer League.
Who are some of these people that you're talking with?
Okay, we've spoken to teams from Washington, from Long Island, from Charlotte, Jacksonville, Orlando, Boston, Massachusetts, Memphis, Houston, Tulsa. A cross-section of different groups of ownership from different areas. And again, it's very important that we feel comfortable with our new partners, and before we do, it's very difficult to form a new league.
It must be. One thing that I have to ask you, Bobby, is the opinion of the people across the Atlantic Ocean. Obviously, soccer in America is struggling right now, and the people across the Atlantic, how do they feel about it?
Well, they don't really know a great deal about it because, you know, we don't get fed a great deal of information. We just know that, you know, the North American Soccer League as a whole has just folded. And I think people that have been associated with North American soccer in the past, you know, look upon that as a big disappointment. I think it's a wee bit understandable in as much that, you know, football in Europe at the present time is at a fairly low ebb. And I think you know, one of the most important things that's got to happen here in North America, if they are going to go on, is that the clubs that do become involved have got to have a really solid foundation to really work on. And if it means, as Rodney has just said, you know, coming out of it for a period of time, reevaluating the whole process, looking exactly, you know, where they can go in the future, then I think that's got to be done, providing when they do go on, you know, it is with teams that have got the same preparation, have got the same ideas, and have got the same foundation to work on, and it's not just something that you jump into and expect it to happen, because unfortunately, you know, it won't just happen overnight. You know, it needs something as a solid foundation to really work on and be prepared to work at.
Well, obviously, Rodney is...
Rodney, that's a good point. What Bobby is saying, in essence, is that the people that we go forward with have to be of the same philosophy. And that's very, very important because in previous league situations, you've had disparity between the teams. For instance, the Cosmos have had budgets of $6 million, and Tulsa have had budgets of $500,000. And the disparity between ownership is, the philosophy is totally different. And that you run into all kinds of problems with that. And the Cosmos have experienced it, overspending, making wrong decisions for all the wrong reasons. And as Bobby says, we really do have to get with partners of the same philosophy.
So you hopefully look for that unit, and hopefully you will have that unit together by the time the indoor season rolls around?
Well, if we don't have it by the middle of August, we won't have it at all. And we will not go forward unless we have 6 strong teams with the same philosophy. And what that means is this, is that we've made our preparations, we've made our plans, we have our goals and our direction. We will play a series of international games, indoor games, bringing in teams from maybe Russia or from Europe, hopefully, and even South America, to play a series of sponsored exhibition games at Bayfront Centre. But we will not get involved with the league situation for all the wrong reasons.
How does the owner of the Tampa Bay Rowdies, Dick Corbett, feel about it?
Well, Dick and Cornelia Corbett are the family owners of the Rowdies, and Dick is and both Cornelia are wonderful people. They really are.
Very enthusiastic.
Very much so. And the reason I smiled is because they are so rowdy, gung-ho, it's untrue. And they will do the right thing, believe me. They're 100% behind the Rowdies. They've made a commitment, and 2 finer people you could not wish to meet, and they really are community-minded people.
They certainly are. Of course, he was involved with the Chamber of Commerce in Tampa, but it seems that everything he touches seems to turn to gold. He's very successful.
There's nothing wrong with that, you know.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. No, not at all, Rodney. One thing that I was going to mention was the fact that he is very successful no matter what he does in politics and in big business. Is there any word that perhaps he might be the man to step forward and lead, perhaps become the commissioner of this new league that we seem to be looking for?
I don't think that Dick Corbett has the time. As you say, he's been very successful both in his political career with the Kennedys and in his business career with real estate and development, and he's putting together a really tremendous development with International Plaza, which is going to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, development in the state of Florida, I believe, of this kind. And he's very successful, but he doesn't have the time to run a soccer league. In fact, Cornelia is working with the Rowdies on a daily basis, and she works like 14 hours a day because she loves it too. But as far as Dick being a commissioner or a president of a league, he really doesn't have the time.
I see. Well, right now you're working towards your goal of July 4th. That is the issue at hand. And what we did was we went back into the old Rowdy files and picked up some tapes, and we have selected some video that we'd like you to discuss. And I know that, Bobby, as I mentioned earlier, England did play the United States in a friendly just a few weeks ago, and we also have that footage. So we're going to have a look at that right now. And Rodney, as we go along, I'd like you to describe some of the players, some of the action, and tell us a few bits of information that might be beneficial. Right now, this is the game against the United States, England, and the United States in blue. And Bobby, why don't you take it? This is Hoddle attacking right here.
Yeah. Well, Glenn's only just got into the side on a recent basis in the last 2 games of their tour in Mexico. The last game prior to this was against West Germany, and he played very, very well. And, you know, as I said earlier, he's got tremendous talent, but he's played with 2 players up front in these 2 games that have both been very enthusiastic players, both very, very good runners, and have always wanted to attack defenders and attack spaces in behind.
And there's another man who likes to run, Rodney Marsh, Perry Vanderbeck.
Yeah, Perry will be playing for the US World Cup game against the Rowdies on Thursday.
As well this man.
You see Wild and Woolly Frank Worthington.
Magic Boots.
Frank was in today. He came in today and trained this evening.
They call him Magic Boots. He originally was with Southampton the year before last and then moved to Brighton this year.
That's right, yeah. He's, I was talking to Frank a little earlier on in the day, and he's debating with his own mind, you might say, at the present time, whether to continue playing or whether to go into player management. there's a chance he could go into player management, I believe.
Famous goal right there, Rodney, and a couple of others right here as they move the ball around in front. And that, of course, Mike Hanlon knocking that one, but a little bit too late, Rodney.
Yeah, that was Michael. This is Mirandinha, who won't be there. And we're jumping around from different films.
A couple of different shots right here.
The people, yeah.
And Barrowledge putting that one in. Rodney, is there anyone that you wanted to come who could not make it? Obviously, there must be one or two.
The only person that can't make it is Tattoo. And he's a great header. I don't score that one. The only person that can't make it is Tattoo, and that is for financial reasons. We got into a situation with Dallas, who wanted the fee for Tattoo and McLeod, and we were not prepared to pay any fees for any players because Refik Kozic had asked for a fee back a couple of months ago, and I refused to pay Koki a fee of $1,500, and I felt that players should play in the game for the fans and for the Rowdies, for what the Rowdies have done for those players over the last 8 or 9 years. They will be getting an honorarium and they will be getting presents, and I just felt that we shouldn't pay any of the players any kind of money to play in the game.
Well, Rodney, you certainly did have a great career with the Tampa Bay Rowdies, and of course now you find yourself in a different position. Yeah. But let us take a look back at Rodney Marsh and his playing days.
When I reminisce about Rodney Marsh and his 4 years with the Rowdies, I reminisce most about his game-winning goals. He's been knocking them in since day one. Here he beats the Minnesota Kicks in 1976. I'm sure most fans will remember Rodney for his goal-scoring abilities, but I know he'll agree that he'd also like to be remembered for his ability to create goals. 2 great examples here against the New York Cosmos in 1976. This goal will have to rank right up in the top 5 of Rodney's all-time best, mostly because of this turn right here. Rodney whacks it off the post and promptly disposes of the New York Cosmos in the 1976 playoffs. Rodney was America's first soccer character, known affectionately as the Clown Prince of Soccer. His on-field antics have been as much a part of the Rowdies' success story these last years as his superior playing skills, demonstrated here against the Memphis Rogues in '77, another game winner. Marsh is now 34 years old, 6'1", 180 pounds, born in London, England. He was a premier player in England with Manchester City, Queen's Park Rangers, and finally Fulham before coming to the Rowdies in '76. During his 4 years with the Rowdies, Rodney has played in 94 games, not counting the current playoffs we're in, 67 goals, 70 assists for a total of 146 points. Rodney's testimonial game will be the first ever held in the United States for a soccer player. They are held on an infrequent basis in Europe and England on the retirement of a player, a super player. Rodney will receive the proceeds from both the game and the roast as a gift from the Rowdies and the people of Tampa. The game is set for 8 p.m. Friday the 14th of September in Tampa against the Fort Lauderdale Strikers. Here Rodney beats them in overtime last year in Tampa Stadium. He has been their #1 nemesis. The combination roast and banquet is set the night before, 6:30 p.m. Thursday the 13th of September at Curtis Hickson. Tickets for both events available at all Rowdies outlets and unclaimed freight stores. Rodney was voted the most valuable player for the 1977 and 78 seasons and the most popular player here in '77. His '78 season was probably the most impressive in his career, setting new records for scoring points in a season with 52, most game-winning goals with 9, most assists with 16, and the most penalty kicks with 6. He came in 3rd in the American Conference scoring and made the North American Soccer League All-Star First Team. Updating you again on the game and the testimonial roast. First of all, the banquet and roast, which will be an event full of joy and reminiscing. That'll be held Thursday, September 13th. Starts at 6:30, Curtis Hickson Hall in Tampa. Then the next night, it's Marsh against the Fort Lauderdale Strikers. Lots of special halftime activities, September 14th at Tampa Stadium. Tickets available at all the Rowdies' usual outlets and unclaimed freight stores. And although this is Rodney Marsh's last season of 4 with the Tampa Bay Rowdies, 4 incredible years of great soccer at Tampa Stadium, rest assured that the world of soccer has not seen or heard the last of Rodney Marsh.
I have welcomed people from all nations, your parents, grandparents, and I gave them a dream of freedom and hope. Now time and the elements are destroying me. I am in desperate need of help. America, you are my dream, and I am yours. If you still believe in me, save me.
Keep the torch lit. Send your contribution or call 1-800-THE-LADY.
Do you think you could hold on to a child in an accident and save him from hitting the windshield? Let's look. A sudden stop at just 35 miles per hour could propel a child forward with a force of nearly a ton. Holding that child back would be like trying to hold back a bullet as it's fired from a gun. To protect your child, use a car seat designed for young children. This message is from the Will Rogers Institute, White Plains, New York.
I'm a peaceful man. I wouldn't hurt a fly. But now I'm going to get out of line. I'm going to sign up for direct deposit, so I'll never have to stand in line with my government check again. With direct deposit, my money goes directly to my account automatically. That frees up my time for other things. Like my experiments.
Get direct deposit wherever you have your checking or savings account.
Oh, come on, get out of line.
It's an incredible deal. You always earn market-based rates with it, as long as you hold it 5 years.
What is it? What if you hold it and market rates go down?
This can't go below 7.5%.
Must take a lot to get in.
Oh, I bet it does.
$25? So what is it? Oh, come on, what is it? U.S. savings bonds with a variable interest rate.
The savings bond deal has changed. If you haven't looked into them lately, you don't know how much you're missing.
Welcome back. My guests tonight, Rodney Marsh and Bobby Moore, both of whom will be wearing Rowdy jerseys this coming 4th of July, and it's, well, a different twist, really, for you, Bobby, because you played against Rodney.
Yeah, I played against Rodney many times when Rodney used to play in England for a variety of different clubs, Fulham, Queen's Park Rangers, Manchester City, and then, you know, most of my career in England was spent with one club, West Ham United, but then towards the latter part of my career, I left West Ham and joined Fulham. And fun enough, we had a season planned together when Rodney came back home to England from the Rowdies, and as I say, you know, we had some great fun playing for that season with Fulham, with George Best, Rodney, Alan Mullery and myself, and that was very, very enjoyable. It's always great to get the opportunity of playing with great players instead of against them.
Oh, quite a compliment there, Mr. Marsh. What about Mr. Moore?
Well, Bobby Moore is the, obviously he's the finest player that ever played for England, and holds the record for the most caps, 107, 108, Bob?
108.
108 caps. And a compliment indeed coming from him, because he is the premier player of all time in England.
Well, you already told us what it was like to play with him. What was it like to play against Rodney Marsh?
Well, Rodney was a difficult player to play against because he was very, very much an individualist. He was, you know, a player that could adapt to a variety of different positions. I mean, I think he made his name primarily as a goal scorer, but he could always drop off into midfield, and you know, he had good feet and he could get people through because of his passing ability. But I think that the hardest thing to cope with when you was playing against Rodney was the total unexpectedness of what he would be doing next. Because, as I say, he's very, very much an individual player, and because of that, as I say, you know, you always had to be aware and prepared for the unexpected.
Speaking of being unexpected, Rodney, one time, rather this past summer, I was in England and had an opportunity to watch some of the highlights at the BBC, and I saw one tape where Rodney Marsh was actually sitting on the ball during the game. You want to tell me the story behind that?
I think the thing about me as a player was that I would do anything that I possibly could to get one up on the guy that was marking me. And when you play in Europe, in England, you always have a guy marking you, whether it's a central defender or a fullback that's brought in to mark you. You always have somebody marking you in England. And after the first 3 or 4 years I played in the First Division, I realised that I had to use all of my abilities to get that player to concentrate more on me and to try and distract him from his job, which was to put me out of the game. And I would use anything. I would dive for free kicks. I would elbow. I would talk to the guy marking me. And it's strange when you play against. In England, you play against good players every week. You play against Spurs one week, Manchester United, and you're always playing against a good defender or defenders. And it's interesting to see how different defenders respond to that kind of behaviour. It really is.
What was the response you got on that particular day? It was a match of the day. Let me refresh your memory. It was match of the day, and it was a nationally televised game, and I believe you're playing with City when you sat on the ball that time.
Well, I think the thing about, I don't remember the incident, but the thing about it is that defenders are very good when they're on top of you. And when you get one up on a defender or a team defensively, I think that you can really put them, kill them by doing things that, I mean, and maybe it's not acceptable to a lot of people, but it was the way I was brought up in the game. That's the way I was brought up in the game, and on different occasions, people would. I mean, it's very frustrating for a defender when he gets close to you in the penalty area, and he knows that if he touches you, you're going to go down for a penalty kick. And it's very. I mean, Bobby's a defender.
A little laugh,
it's very scary as a defender to know that when somebody's coming in the box and you half expect them to dive, it's very difficult for a defender to react to that. So I will use all of those things. Yeah, certainly.
And did you use any of those against this man, Bobby Moore?
All the time. Yeah.
I see. What was it like to play against Bobby Moore?
I think that I used to enjoy playing against the players that Bobby played with, which is a strange comment to make. Bobby was always the second defender, more often than not, and I was always marked by the first defender. In many of the games that I played against West Ham, I was marked by a guy called Tommy Taylor, and Tommy Taylor was is a super player to play against. He was a nice guy, a nice person. He wasn't going to kick you, and so you enjoy playing against that type of a player. No, I'm not being.
No, just telling it like it is.
Player, and I used to quite enjoy playing against that situation.
Bobby, you're having a bit of a laugh here.
Well, why I was laughing is because I was thinking of what Rodney was saying earlier and relating to the fact of him sitting on the ball. There's two ways of looking at that. A, for a start, it's colourful for the crowd. It is different, and as I say, it's a form of entertainment. But as a defender, when you get that happen against you, it antagonises many people. And when they become antagonistic, they become furious. They want to get their own back. And when they become furious, they make irrational decisions. And really, that is the sort of incident and manner in which Rodney's trying to, to create for himself to benefit against defenders. Now, he's mentioned a fella, Tommy Taylor. Now, I know full well why Rodney would say he would enjoy playing with him, because Tommy would enter into the spirit of things that Rodney's talking about.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, if Rodney was talking to him, he would talk back and laugh. And if Rodney's throwing himself around, he would enter into the spirit of things and would throw himself around, because I know Tommy Taylor, he was a good player, should really have been a far, far better player if his attitude to the game had had not only this colourful character side of it as well, but the seriousness that sometimes you need. We can't be jokers all the time, and I think that was a side of the game that let that one player down. But I think that is possibly highlighting more the situation that Rodney was talking about earlier, trying to create. And
that's right. And another to take that stage further, as a player, and you're talking about doing things as a forward player. I think most forward players have to do things that are unexpected, because defenders are really, really good players. Let's face it. I mean, in England, they're as quick, they're as crafty. They're good players, and so a forward player that's an ordinary run-of-the-mill type player that does the same things is only going to get to a certain level. Now, the player that I hated to play against was a player that would just go out on the field, would mark a forward player, wouldn't speak, He'd kick you, you'd get up, you'd look around, you'd appeal to the referee, you'd say something, and the player wouldn't even acknowledge you, and go on and tackle you again, and tackle you again, until he got a yellow card. Now, I hated to play against those players, and those players knew that, and therefore they wouldn't be drawn into the kind of gamesmanship that I needed to use to benefit me and benefit my team.
Rodney, do any of these names fit into that mold? Glenn Meyernick, Mike Connell? How about Alex Pringle? They're all players that'll be there at the 4th of July.
Yeah, I think it would be nice to be with all those players again and see them all playing. We're getting off the subject if you're talking about those kind of players, because those players, Glenn and Alex and Mike and those players, are playing in the North American Soccer League standard, which is slightly different to you know, to the First Division of England and certainly to the European leagues.
Well, we have a lot to cover tonight, and the reason I mentioned those 3 names is because they'll be playing in the 4th of July game, and we'd like to have a look at the videotape, and you can see some of those players in that videotape and let us know what you think of them as we move along. And also, Bobby, feel free to make a few comments. Here's a goal scored by Neil Roberts, and it certainly is familiar of the English style of play, Bobby.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about Neil coming across in the car earlier, because we've only just come in from a practice session, and my immediate reaction was his tremendous heading ability. I mean, even in practice tonight, he's powered 1 or 2 tremendous headers in.
Certainly was a great goal. Rodney, here it is on the slow motion.
This cross comes from Jan van der Veen, and as you can see, it's a near post great cross and a deflection header. And as Bobby said, Neil Roberts is a great header of the ball. Jan van der Veen is being inducted into the Hall of Fame on July 3rd at the banquet we're having. Jan was captain here for 2 years, and that certainly was a super near post cross. This is Winston DeBose here. I don't know what comes from this play, but...
This is the Rowdies versus the Cosmos, 1978 playoffs in New York, and this is you with the ball now. I think it's Mike Connell, if I have it correct. Mike Connell playing it forward to you right there. And this was a game that ended in a tie, Rodney. And eventually Tony Field stole this one here. Oh. And Tony Field, a man who later moved on to play at, I believe, Tennessee, if that's correct.
Yeah, that's Paul Hammond, isn't it, in goal?
Yes, Paul Hammond in goal,
yeah.
Who later went on to play for Team America last year.
Yeah.
Or check that the year before.
This is Peter Pelly.
And what a player he was. What was it like to play against him?
Wasn't very good.
Why? For obvious reasons.
He'd talk about people using gamesmanship. People didn't realise that Pele was great at that. Pele had all the skills, and he also had a great sense of one-upmanship about other players around him. And when I played here for 2 years against Pele, and that was my only opportunity. Bobby played against him many, many times.
Bobby, I understand you're a good friend of Pele.
Yeah, well, played against him quite a lot of times for the English national team, against the Brazilian national team, and I mean, he was probably the most complete player in the world.
Without a doubt?
Yeah, I would say, yeah. When I say that, you know, probably the best player in the world, because he was just so complete. I mean, most players will have certain weaknesses in their game. You know, their strengths will be very, very good, but they will have certain weaknesses. But I think with Pele, he never had a weakness, you know, and I can remember once talking in Mexico to the Brazilian team manager before the 1970 World Cup, and Brazil had tremendous talents out on the pitch itself, but they always seemed to have a goalkeeping problem. And I can remember talking to the Brazilian manager, asking him why this was always a problem, and who did he really feel that their #1 goalkeeper was, and he said, well, you know, my #1 goalkeeper would be Pele, because he is the complete type of player. I could play him at right back, I could play him in goal, I could play him left midfield, I could play him outside right, and because of his total awareness of the game, his appreciation of the game, and his all-round ability, he would be my best player, you know, and I you know, that to me spoke wonders, and having played against him many times, he wasn't a particularly big player, but he still had tremendous heading ability, and I'm certain you've seen some tremendous headed goals from him. He was very strong, he could be aggressive, he had 2 good feet, he had good stamina, he had speed, and
he had all the tools.
Yeah, he had everything going for him.
Rodney, you also played against him. You said that he used those head games, but there was another man that we saw on the tape, and his name was Stevie Hunt. And Stevie still plays today, and he was a very strong player, a very strong-willed player, Rodney.
I think again, you're talking about different levels of, you know, of players.
Well, Stevie Hunt, perhaps one of the better imports that came here to play in the United States. Would you agree with that statement?
Not really, no.
Why not?
I think that Steve Hunt is a very, very good player at a certain level, and well, you know, he's a fine player. But if you're comparing players that came into America, I think you've got to look at, you know, the full spectrum of players that came from all over the world. And if Pele was #1, which I totally concur with Bobby about that, then Steve Hunt, a good ordinary player, was probably in the top 60 or 70.
Right. Okay.
But certainly nowhere of the caliber of something like Pele or Eusebio or Johan Cruyff that played here. George Best played here. And, you know, really super players, yeah.
I think when you relate to people like Steve Hunt, you know, Steve Hunt came into the North American Soccer League to the Cosmos, I think it was from Coventry City.
That's right.
If I remember right. And I think he probably came as a young boy, a lot of potential, and totally unknown ability. And he was probably only allowed to come here to the North American Soccer League from Coventry because they wasn't quite certain whether he was going to make the grade or not. And I think Steve came here, got involved with a very, very good team that played with a great deal of confidence, a great deal of ability, and I think, you know, it done him the world of good from the experience point of view. And I think, you know, he blossomed as a player through the benefit of the experience of the players that he had around him. And then when he went back to England, he came back to England a far better player through being in the North American Soccer League and playing against the players and with the players that he was playing with here. But as I say, I think he probably came as an unknown type of player, exploded on the scene totally unexpectedly, and made a very, very big impact here. And I think that done him the world of good because he has now come back into English Football League and has been doing very well for several seasons.
He certainly has. And another man who has more or less dropped out of the picture, but certainly did make his mark on football, was Georgie Best. And I know, Rodney, you had the opportunity to play with him.
Well, both Bobby and I know George very well and played with him for Fulham, as Bobby said earlier. I played against him in Manchester for 4 years, and he played for Manchester United and I played for Manchester City. And of course Bobby played against him probably for 7 or 8 years as well. And it goes without saying that George Best is probably the most skillful player outside of Brazil that ever lived.
Yeah, I mean, George was tremendous talent, and I would have thought in his early 20s, when he was playing probably at his peak for Manchester United, Pelé had just about finished in Brazil, Johan Cruyff had finished playing in Holland and Barcelona. I would have thought George was probably the most exciting player in the world for a couple of years. I mean, he was absolutely tremendous, and you know, I just think it's a sad thing that's happened to George because you know, he's had tremendous opportunities, and you know, he's got tremendous talent, and he's such a lovable little fella as well. He's a great little character, and you know, I just hope that you know, things work out well for him in the whatever career he decides to go into from now, because you know, having had the opportunity of not only playing against him but with him, I just hope he does well.
Rodney, who would be #2 on your list? You said that Pelé would be 1 as the top.
I think whenever you get into these kind of conversations, it just becomes one man's opinion about a situation, and I personally tend to say this, that there is only one player, and that's Pelé, and everybody else is second. That's how I feel about it. I think there's been varying levels of players that have almost been as good at any given time, but Pelé played in 3 World Cups and played brilliantly in 3 World Cups. If people could understand the difference between club soccer and international soccer, they would understand what I mean. It's so much more difficult to play in international soccer. It's so much more difficult to play in World Cup soccer. And Pelé has done things in the World Cup which, when you're a professional player, you think, if I had the opportunity to do that in a game or a reserve game or a friendly game, it would have been magnificent. Pelé did it for 12 years at world-class level all the time, and his standard never waned. He was brilliant for 12 years. George Best was brilliant for probably, as Bobby said, probably 2 or 3 or 4 years. But Pelé was there all the time, being marked out of the game by Bulgarians and Russians and Czechoslovakian, very hard tackling players, and was still magnificent. And in my view, everybody else is
second best.
Yeah, well, not second best, no, because they're all great players. But there is, in my view, there is only one Pelé, and always there never will be anybody better, because players come on the scene and players go, and you see people come up like Zico comes up, and Maradona comes up, and this player comes up, and then there's Keegan, and then there's so-and-so, and they all say these players are going to be great players, and they are great players, but they always fall short of Pele, and I think they always will, personally.
My guests tonight, Rodney Marsh and Bobby Moore, who will be playing in the Rowdies game on the 4th of July at Tampa Stadium. When we return, we will be talking specifically about that subject.
That's Jenny, but that's not Jenny's dad. If she gets into that car, that may be the last time you'll see Jenny. I'm McGruff, the crime dog. See those kids? Every day in this country, 60 kids disappear. Some run away, but a lot are kidnapped by strangers, or even by people they know. So write to McGruff and teach your kids to protect themselves. Help take a bite out of crime.
A very bad thing is happening in this house. And maybe in your house, too. Energy is oozing out of every crack and taking your good money with it. Put a stop to it. A house that saves energy is worth more. So save energy and keep your money where your house is. A message from these organizations and the Alliance to Save Energy. For more information, write the Alliance.
Okay, we are back. My guests, Rodney Marsh and Bobby Moore, two great names in soccer and two names that will join forces on the 4th of July at Tampa Stadium. And Rodney Marsh, why don't you give us the starting lineup if you had to make it right now?
Well, the final decision will be Eddie Fermanez if he shows up. He's running late. He called from Rome yesterday, where he's interviewing for a job, and he's running late, and hopefully he'll be here for Wednesday. And he will choose the Rowdies lineup, but it's looking something like the starting lineup will be something like Dubose.
What's Winston's status? As we say these players' names, why don't you tell us a little bit about them?
Winston Dubose is currently playing on loan to Tulsa. He signed a contract for Rowdies for indoor, and we'll be back tomorrow to train tomorrow, hopefully, and Wednesday before Thursday's game. And then we're looking at back players as being Van der Veen, Connell, Gorman, August, and then Bobby and I will come on at 45 minutes at half-time. And then midfield will be Glenn Hoddle, Ozzy Ardiles, and Wes McLeod. Up front we've got the Flying Wegley brothers. It'd be great for people to see Roy Wegley back in Tampa Stadium. Roy is, in my opinion, is one of the finest young talents that I've certainly come across and been involved with. And Stevens, you know, still playing terrifically. He's a great crosser of the ball. He's a good passer of the ball, and very quick still. And up front we've got Derek Smethurst, and there'll be changes at half-time for Neil Roberts and Frank Worthington, and Glenn Mynick and Bobby and myself will come on, and hope I haven't left anybody out. 1, 2, 3, 4.
You just about made it. You have everyone except for Greg Thompson.
Greg Thompson's injured. He's got tendonitis, and will not be making the trip.
Okay, and Perry Vanderbeek.
Perry's going to be here, but he's only going to play for the national team.
Okay.
He won't be playing for 45 minutes for each team.
And the reason?
Coach won't let him.
So that's
a good decision by Jay Miller. Jay Miller's the coach interim period, and he told me today that he wants to win the game, and he wants it to be a competitive game, and he feels that the Rowdies All-Star team is really
stacked.
He said today, in actual fact, he made a very interesting comment today. He said it's a who's who of soccer, which is a very nice comment to make, but you have to understand one thing, and that is that when you get a bunch of players put together to play a game, they may all be very, very skillful, but we haven't had time to work together to work out different planning and strategy and tactics and that kind of stuff. So they're prepared, and we are unprepared.
I see. And Bobby, would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you've got a group of players together just for a very short period of time, it's difficult to work on some of the finer aspects of the game. But I think with the experience in the side, the players' ability to be able to adapt, should be make it okay. And I'm certain we'll be able to cope. And I don't really know a great deal about the United States national team, but from what I've seen of the team that we have and the players that we have available, I think there's a lot of talent in the side, and I think it could be a very, very exciting match. I'm looking forward to it a great deal, I must admit, and I think you know, whoever goes to the game will see a great deal of action. I think they'll see some tremendously exciting play from some of the English players, without a doubt. Glenn Hoddle and Ozzie Ardiles, players they haven't seen before, and at the same time they're going to see some old favourites, which I'm certain they're looking forward to. So
and some of those old favourites include Mike Connell, who has recently accepted the job as head coach at Clearwater Central Catholic High School. And Rodney Marsh, does that mean that Mike Connell is closing the curtain on his career?
I don't know, Mike. The last conversation I had with Mike was a while ago now, and the only conversations that we've had and the only communication we've had has been through a newspaper. I've been reading what Mike's been saying and what he's going to do, and I'm not sure that's accurate. I don't know. The latest thing that I read was that he felt that he's going to retire and take the job at CCC, and I'm sure he will do a very, very fine job there. And it needs more professionals in the community to do that kind of thing. Glenn Minek's working with Tampa U, and Glenn will do a fine job there, and I'd like to see all the ex-Rowdies out there in the community taking coaching positions like Michael is doing with CCC, because I think it's important that we've taken a lot out of the game, and I think now is the time to put it back.
Assuming that the Rowdies get everything organized and everything goes their way, will Rodney Marsh pursue getting Michael Connell back in a Rowdy jersey?
At this time, I would say that that thought is down the road. I think the immediate thoughts are for July the 4th, hoping for a big crowd, planning for the big crowd, and taking it one step at a time. Certainly, I would have to say that the door is never closed on anybody. I've always had that opinion about any situation, and any decisions that we make will be made for the right reasons, so we'll have to wait and see.
Some of the other names that will be coming, we saw Frank Worthington before, earlier on in the show. And Bobby, why don't you tell us a little bit about Frank? We know that he'll be arriving in, but as a player, what type of excitement? And we know he brought a lot of excitement. He always seemed to play very well against the Cosmos here in the United States, but what about in England? What type of player was he?
Well, Frank's always been a very exciting player. He's been a personality-type player, as you would say, and he's already arrived here. I was talking to him earlier on this evening, and he's really looking forward to the game. I think being back in Tampa again, I know has already excited him. He liked the place while he was here, and I think he enjoyed his spell here. And if the fans turn out in their numbers, which everyone seems to be confident of them doing, I think that will bring the best out of Frank. I think Frank will rise to the occasion. If there's 35,000, 40,000 people here, you'll see Frank Worthington really wanting to enjoy himself, and you'll see him at his best.
If there's any person who can tell us if there will be that many there, it's this man here, Rodney Marsh.
Well, quite frankly, ticket sales are going very, very well.
What's very well, Rodney?
The response has been staggering. I think we're close today on 14,000 advanced, and the walk-up crowd in prior years has been 3-to-1 ratio. If that's any judgment, then we're in for a really big crowd, and people were calling today for tickets and couldn't get the tickets they wanted because they've already been sold, and that's the first time that's happened in a few years. So, you know, we feel very, very comfortable with that.
Well, it certainly must. You certainly must. But what about the schedule for the week? Why don't you let us in on exactly what the Rowdies have planned for the entire week?
Okay, well, tomorrow night we have a pep rally at Chili's, which starts at 6 o'clock in Carrollwood. We train tomorrow at 11 a.m. That's the Rowdies All-Stars. Then on Wednesday we have a press conference at the stadium at 1 o'clock. We will train there. Then we have the Hall of Fame banquet at the Holiday Inn on Cyprus. And fans can come to that, just buy a ticket, $15, and sit with a Rowdy player or a World Cup player who will sit on each table. And then with complimentary wine, by the way. And then we have the July 4th game.
I see, and the 4th, of course, accompanied
spectacular.
By the famous fireworks.
Yeah, by the Grucci family, and the laser show is absolutely staggering. It's sensational. It's a Star Wars style. It's the biggest laser in the world, and we found out today, Eddie Austin, our Director of Operations, found out today that they cancelled a previous show, and we're now going to have a double laser show, which is sensational.
So things are really looking up for the big event. Some of the other names that will be there: Neil Roberts, a man who has signed on with Chicago, and Neil will also be there. And here's a name from the past, John Gorman. What can you tell me about John?
Yes.
One that you
Sparky.
left out.
No, I didn't leave him out.
Well, you didn't leave him out.
He was in the starting lineup. But,
okay. True. My apologies.
But Sparky is going back to England after the game, and he had a great career here for 3 or 4 years, and he's a super guy, and we wish him very, very well when he goes back to Europe.
Rodney Marsh. Is Rodney Marsh ready for this game? It said in the tape that he was 180 pounds.
Yeah, and now I'm 183
days.
now, and carrying that extra 3 pounds may be a problem.
We'll have to wait and see. What about you, Bobby? You ready to play?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's great being here, and you know, I've enjoyed the atmosphere so far, and I think in the next few days it's going to really build up into something, and I can't wait for the 4th.
Is this a vacation for you as well?
No, it's a working vacation.
I see. Rodney, I have to put you on the spot now because when there's a few people in this game, they're going to be asking exactly, will soccer hold up in America?
If I could speak about it for a couple of minutes, as an example, Bobby Moore is here from England, and Glenn Hoddle's going to play in the game, Ozzy Ardiles. I think that what it's going to take, I think it's going to take a lot more of those people, given of their time and effort, to come to the United States. Bobby and Glenn and Ozzy are working at Camp Kicking the Grass. They're doing 2 or 3 sessions each. And I think it's going to take a lot of people giving a lot of commitment, because down the road, that will come back to them. And I think that ultimately, outdoor soccer in the United States will be an enormous success. But it takes bringing people to the country who have a big name in the sport, that have been great players, and so the young kids can see them both in a coaching capacity and sometimes in a playing capacity, because without that, they really have no role models to go to other than this level of college player, and I really do feel that's very, very important.
How important is the media to soccer?
Oh, it's paramount. It's everything. And as an example, if a media outlet, if you like, is pro a sport or a franchise, it can make a franchise. A good example of that is the Tampa Bay Thrillers, who CBA basketball team here, who have had tremendous media coverage locally, and have done very, very well. And I think that can be a real benefit to the team if the media coverage is positive. Yeah.
In England, we have the match of the day. Sometimes you have 2 matches of the day, Bobby. Do you find that it's important for the youngsters to have someone to look up to? Yeah, without a doubt. You know, I've been coming to North America playing football now since 1963. And, you know, I've noticed the changes. And, you know, one of the most important changes that I think I have noticed that in the years that I've been coming back is the more and more younger children have been playing. Now, I think that is very, very important. But I think it would be sad is if, as they progress and learn the game and want to play the game more, they haven't got the actual North American Soccer League or whatever league it's going to be to copy and to progress into. And I think it would be a terrible disappointment if now that, you know, the country as a whole has got a tremendous amount of young children playing the game, and, you know, it is the #1 sport in the world outside of everywhere other than America. You know, and a country as big as this should be able to compete with the rest of the world, you know, with the sport that is #1 throughout the world. And as I say, you know, if it doesn't catch on in North America, I think it'll be a very, very sad thing. And I think a lot of people that have been here over the years where they've been trying to introduce the game will be very, very disappointed. And I think a lot of the children that have now taken to the game, you know, I think it would be sad for them as well. Rodney, when we come back, we'll be discussing the final issues. I want you to run down exactly what the Rowdies have on tap one last time and give us the address, the information. And gentlemen, I want you to think about this one last question. There was an analogy that perhaps the students who are going to the schools will be the ones to support soccer down the road. I want you to think about that, and let me know what you think about it when we come back.
No matter how nice your world is, you know it's always out there. The bad news, the social problems,
youth high on drugs.
Brooks jumped to his death from his 15th.
The disturbing statistics that just won't go away.
Homeless population. According to the study, the homeless problem is growing at an alarming rate and now affects up to 20 million.
Every 18 seconds, a woman gets beaten in this country. 39% of all high school seniors are problem drinkers. Mental disorders will disrupt the lives of 19% of American adults in the next 6 months. Our difficulties sometimes sound insurmountable. They're not. If you want to do something about our problems, remember, the way to stop them is to become united. United Way. Thanks to you, it works for all of us.
Evans, hiring you 2 years ago was a real gamble. You fresh out of high school, no experience, but I figured you could pump gas. Of course, that was before I found out you could fix anything on wheels. So you know what I'm going to do? Put you in charge of the entire service department.
All right. Thanks for giving me a chance.
Everybody deserves a chance to make it on their own, and there are things you can do to help. Write National Urban League.
These guys have been raising cattle a long time, but when it comes to marketing, they can sure use a little Texas know-how. As a Peace Corps volunteer, I'm showing them how to use what little capital they do have to raise a herd that'll generate some real income. It may be just a start, but let me tell you, a good bottom line translates in any language. I took my experience and put it to work in the Peace Corps.
The United States Peace Corps, the toughest job you'll ever love.
Welcome back to this edition of the Sports Exchange. My guests, Rodney Marsh and Bobby Moore. Bobby Moore, the captain of England's World Cup team in 1966. They were champions that year. And Rodney Marsh, the man who has done so much for soccer here in the Bay Area. And Rodney, I asked you the question just before we left, will the children of today be the ones who finally support soccer? Many people feel that, and that they're just waiting right now for those people who are in the school systems learning soccer to come out and support in the years to come. Do you believe that, or?
I think, in all honesty, that Bobby would be better to answer that question because I live here on an annualised basis for the last 10 years, and Bobby may be able to answer that question more objectively than I can.
Bobby is an outsider?
Well, I would think without a doubt, you know, the more young kids you've got playing the game, then the better chance the game has got. Because even with the amount of young kids you've got coming through, you know, they're going to become older. As they become older, as long as they keep playing football, or soccer as you call it, the better it's going to be. But the thing is, you know, as they get older, they've got to have the leagues to play in. And I think, you know, what would be very paramount at the present time is if they had a North American soccer league of some substance where eventually, you know, they could set their eyes on. Because, you know, we all like to have ambitions, we all like to dream, and, you know, if you're living in New York, one day you want to think about playing for the New York Cosmos. If you live in the Bay Area here at Tampa, one day, you know, as a 10-year-old now, you want to think, I want to become a Tampa Bay Rowdy. So I think it would be great if you can get a good, solid North American soccer league that is going to be there season after season, continually, you know, for the kids to say, look, one day I want to become a Tampa Bay Rowdy. Yeah.
Well, Rodney Marsh, you are one of the men who are trying to set those teams up so those children of today will have the goals to reach for. You said that the Rowdies will be around in the years to come. You're going to be playing in the fall season, and the Bayfront will be the place to see the Rowdies here in the winter, and then a football season, or a soccer season as we call it here in the United States, for the summer of 86, excuse me. Mm-hmm. And then the first big issue right now is the July 4th game. Rodney, we only have a minute left. Why don't you run down the final things, the who, what, where, when, and why?
Well, the game is at 7 p.m. There's a pre-game picnic at 3 o'clock in Horizon Park. Your game ticket and $2 gets you in. You get free Coke or beer. You get ice cream bar. You get Bojangles chicken or hamburgers. I mean, it's a great party. Then we move into the stadium for 7 o'clock. You see the game. You see the all-time Rowdies plus international guest players. You see the World Cup team. How can you beat it? And the laser show and the fireworks. It's going to be a great night.
Should be a great night.
Tickets available at Today's World, Ross Brothers and Rowdy Place.
Great. Gentlemen, thank you both for coming. It's been a great pleasure. Next week, live, 7:30 p.m. here on the Sports Exchange. We'll see you then. For Rodney Marsh and Bobby Moore, myself, Michael Hanlon, good night, everyone.